Picture this: a powerful bird of prey swoops down, snatches a fish from the water, and soars into the sky. It's one of Africa's most iconic scenes. But what if that single meal could be its last? For centuries, the African fish eagle has been more than just a bird. It's a symbol of wild Africa. Its piercing cry echoes over lakes and rivers, a sound so powerful it's known as the voice of Africa. With its snow-white head, chestnut body, and wingspan stretching nearly 8 feet, this raptor is the undisputed king of the waterways. But today, an invisible enemy is creeping into its world, threatening to silence that cry forever. It doesn't come with a warning label. It doesn't make a sound. It's a chemical, a pesticide, that's been drifting into the fish eagle's habitat for decades. And what makes this threat so dangerous is that it doesn't attack the eagles directly. It works its way up the food chain, from the water into the fish, and finally into the eagle itself. So how did we get here? And is there still time to turn the tide? To understand the fish eagle's precarious situation, you need to look at its role in the ecosystem. These birds are apex predators. They sit at the very top of the aquatic food web. That means everything happening below them in the water eventually affects them. For a long time, that was a good thing. Healthy rivers meant plenty of fish, which meant strong eagles. But in the mid-20th century, something changed. Agriculture expanded across Africa. To protect crops from insects, farmers began using a class of chemicals known as organochlorine pesticides. They were effective, cheap, and widely available. The problem was, they didn't stay on the fields. Rain washed these chemicals into rivers and lakes. There, they entered the food chain at the lowest level in plankton, insects, and small fish. But the real trouble began when larger fish ate those smaller ones. With each step up the chain, the concentration of pesticides increased. By the time an eagle caught an adult fish, it was consuming a highly toxic dose. The effects were slow, silent, and devastating. The first sign of trouble came in the 1970s, when researchers in Kenya noticed something strange. Fish eagles in certain regions were failing to reproduce. Nests were built, eggs were laid, but they never hatched. When scientists examined the eggs, they found the shells were dangerously thin. So thin that they cracked under the weight of the parent bird. The culprit? DDT and other similar pesticides. These chemicals interfere with calcium metabolism in birds, making it impossible for females to form strong eggshells. It was the same phenomenon that had nearly wiped out the bald eagle in North America decades earlier. But the fish eagle faced an even more complex challenge. Unlike in some Western countries, where DDT was banned in parts of Africa, these pesticides were still in use, and in some regions they still are today. The fish eagle was being poisoned in slow motion, and few people even knew it was happening. Conservationists realized they had to act, but how do you fight something you can't see? The first step was understanding the scope of the problem. Teams began monitoring fish eagle populations across the continent, focusing on areas with heavy agricultural runoff. They collected eggs from abandoned nests and tested them for pesticide residues. The results were alarming. In some hotspots, DDT levels were high enough to cause near-total reproductive failure, but banning the chemicals outright wasn't always an option. For many farmers, pesticides were the only affordable way to protect their livelihoods. So conservation groups took a different approach. They worked with agricultural communities to promote integrated pest management. This meant introducing natural predators, rotating crops, and using less persistent pesticides that broke down faster in the environment. At the same time, they began cleaning up the eagle's habitat. In Lake Victoria, for example, efforts were made to reduce runoff from nearby farms. Buffer zones of native vegetation were planted along riverbanks to filter chemicals before they reached the water. It was a slow process, but gradually pesticide levels in the water began to drop. Then came the most delicate task, helping the eagles recover in regions where populations had crashed. Captive breeding and reintroduction programs were launched. But this wasn't just about raising eagles in safety and releasing them. It was about ensuring they returned to a healthier environment. Before any birds were released, water and fish in the area were tested to make sure pesticide levels were low enough to support reproduction. The results have been cautiously hopeful. In South Africa's Kruger National Park, fish-eagle numbers have begun to rebound. In Zambia, nesting success has improved along the Kafue River, but the recovery is fragile and uneven because the threat hasn't disappeared. New pesticides have entered the market, some of which are just as persistent as the old ones. Climate change is altering rainfall patterns, which affects how these chemicals move through the landscape. And in many places, fish stocks are declining due to overfishing, forcing eagles to hunt in more polluted waters. So where does that leave the fish-eagle today? It's a story of cautious hope. In protected areas with strong conservation programs, the eagles are holding their own and, in some cases, thriving. But in regions where regulation is weak and agricultural pressure is high, the silent threat continues. What's clear is that saving the fish-eagle isn't just about saving a single species. It's about cleaning up entire watersheds. It's about finding a balance between human needs and the health of the ecosystem. And it's a reminder that the choices we make on land, what we grow, what we spray, how we manage our resources ripple outward, affecting life in ways we may never see until it's almost too late. The cry of the fish-eagle still echoes over Africa's waters. But whether it continues to do so for generations to come depends on what we do next. Have you ever seen an African fish-eagle in the wild? Share your experience in the comments and let us know which threatened species you think we should cover next.